My story doesn't begin beside my mother. Stirring cassoulet or making a Sunday bolognese. No heirloom recipes, no early sparks of culinary genius. I was aimless, with no direction or passion. Out of necessity, I took a job in my uncle's restaurant. But somewhere between the heat of the line and the rhythm of service, something shifted. I found purpose. I found passion. I was never the most naturally talented, but I learned fast that discipline could outwork talent any day. From that moment on, I made a promise to myself to show up, to study, to grind every single day.
Chef Dan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for coming in.
Tell me, take me back to your childhood.
Childhood is fun. I am one of 8, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up with 5 of my siblings, and then I have 2 half sisters. So yeah, growing up in a house with 5 other siblings, it's crazy. It's definitely crazy.
Sure. How many girls, boys?
4 girls in the household I grew up in. It was 4 girls and then a brother. My brother is the baby of the family, so I'm the second oldest. So there's like a 7-year gap between me and my brother. So it definitely wasn't the childhood of like us growing up together. Now we're like best of friends, but it was definitely a childhood of growing up with a lot of girls for sure.
Love it. And so growing up, who was a big mentor of yours?
Growing up, I mean, my mom was and still is a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
She raised all of us. And you know, she was usually working 2 to 3 jobs to support us, and you know, really just did everything she could to be the best that she could. So, no, she was a big part of my childhood.
Awesome. And what was the greatest lesson she ever taught you?
Greatest lesson, probably empathy. My mom is quite possibly the nicest human being you would ever meet in your entire life. She's the type of person that will walk up to just flat out strangers and just start a conversation with them. Yeah. It was funny. We were down the shore in Maryland a couple years back. I was with my mom, my wife, and my sister, my niece and nephew. And my niece was saying, that my sister embarrasses her all the time. She's like, she calls my mom Mina rather than grandmother. She said, did she ever embarrass you as a kid? And then my mom like is off talking to some strangers, and I'm like, she's currently embarrassing me right now. But no, it's definitely empathy and just love, and just treat everyone with respect and care.
Chicken. What are we getting into today? I would say probably the most universal protein in America.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion, who doesn't like chicken?
Who doesn't like chicken? Usually it can be very bland and boring, and people tend to overcook the heck out of it.
Absolutely.
And all that. But if you treat it right and cook it properly, it's super delicious, and there's a reason that everyone eats it and loves it. But going on, you know, my childhood and my mom. So my mom was a chef before I was ever born. She worked for an OG by the name of Chef Norman Van Aken down in Florida. And when we were kids, I mean, feeding 6 kids is not an easy task.
Definitely not.
So it was definitely a lot of, you know, probably why people don't like chicken. Definitely a lot of like frozen skinless chicken breast for dinner. But she always used to make a dish called chicken a la king. Basically, in essence, it's just a chicken dish. It's like poached or however, usually poached, and then you dice it up, serve it in like a white cream sauce with mushrooms and peppers and all that. But today we're going to do my riff on it, if you will.
Love it.
So yeah, again, as a kid, it was always skinless chicken breast. I think one of the best parts of the chicken is the skin. Get it nice and crispy and salty. So yeah, I mean, still cooking simple. You know, tend to cook food and I'm like, oh, it's really easy. And everyone's like, that's not easy. But you know, just a half a chicken, we'll debone it, give it a light cure, grill it, skin side down, and then we'll serve it with a mushroom sauce, kind of a sauce that we do on the menu here at Pasta Bar. Some really beautiful mushrooms right now in season, some chanterelle mushrooms and maitake mushrooms. We'll roast them in some brown butter. We'll make a sauce out of some really beautiful veg, some dried shiitake mushrooms, kombu seaweed for some nice umami and saltiness. It's just super tasty food.
I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Cool.
So tell me, what got you into food? At what age did you start, I don't know, cooking or develop a passion for it?
I fell into cooking. I definitely, when I was a kid, I hated it. It was something that was definitely a chore to me. I definitely, shout out to one of my sisters, Maggie. Shout out, Maggie. She's directly younger than me. She's probably a year and a half apart. But she was always, as a kid, like cooking, and you know, when my mom wasn't home, she would like do dinners and stuff, like, you know, simple stuff. But she was the one who was always like gravitated towards the kitchen.
Yeah.
I hated it. But then I was also not the most studious, which you kind of hear out of a lot of chefs. Hated school, just didn't really conform to it. I did the college route for a semester. So after a semester, I was like, this isn't for me.
You're originally from Philly?
I'm originally from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just enrolled in a Penn State satellite campus. It was like a commuting campus. It was basically like community college. And I was going through the motion because, you know, everyone's like, if you're not going to college, you're throwing your life away, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, a semester in, I quickly realized like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not happy with it. So I don't even remember. It's a long time. 18, 19 years old. I just dropped out. Didn't have a plan, you know, fell into construction work. I knew people that were in construction. And then I eventually wanted to get out of Philly. I definitely knew that there was more to life than just like the same city you were born in and grew up in. So I have an uncle. He has a barbecue restaurant in Los Angeles. And it wasn't a situation of, hey, can I come, you know, work in your restaurant? It was more, I turned to him and said, hey, I'm coming to live on your couch and work in your restaurant. And he's, again, that's my mom's brother. He's the nicest human being. He's one of my legitimate closest friends. Being the nice guy is just like, okay. So I moved out to California, Los Angeles, and just started working in his restaurant. I just did whatever they needed done, running food, host, you know, whatever, busboy.
Yeah.
And finally they needed someone in the kitchen. So they threw me back there and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Didn't really have much motivation and was just like, I'm a, you know, young kid living in California. I'm going to do some cool things. So showing up for work late every day and just not really motivated. Finally, one day, my uncle's business partner pulled me aside and he let me have it. Rightfully so. Just, you know, you don't care. Why do you even bother? Why are you here? Everyone in the kitchen doesn't want you here. And I've always been the type of person that when people root against me or, you know, doubt me, I always want to prove them wrong.
Absolutely.
So I finally was like, all right, let me just show you guys that I can do this. Put my head down and just started really working. Yeah, and so, you know, really started doing that. And, you know, it was barbecue, so cooking in a traditional kitchen and barbecue is like wildly different.
Yeah.
a pit master is a complete different set of skills than a traditional chef. Not saying they're not super talented human beings. I know some pit masters that are just phenomenal, and I can't do what they do.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I wanted to learn more and do more. And it was funny, there was one day we had an open kitchen, and I was just working the line. This guy was ordered to go, and he was just staring at me the whole time. And I could, feel him staring at me. I'm at a point, I've been cooking 20 years, and I've been cooking mostly in open kitchens, so I'm used to people staring at me now.
Yeah.
But, I'm this 21-year-old kid, and I'm like, why is this guy staring at me? Finally, he gets his order, and he turns to me, and he asks how long I've been cooking. Told him, a year or two. And he finally told me, he's like, well, I'm a chef, and I've been watching you. He's like, you move really well. Your movements are very, very fluid and very natural. He's like, you should keep doing this. So, that was something that, really sparked it in me. So that's when I, was like, all right, I'm going to pursue this. I just always loved the controlled chaos of the kitchen. And just, again, I hated school. I hated sitting in desks. I don't know if it's ADHD or whatever. I think that everyone's pinned that, but I always wanted to be moving and working with my hands. And I just sitting in one place drives me nuts. So I moved back to Philly, and at that point, I just started sending out my resume, which was nothing at that point. It's just like, hey, I want to cook. Can you take me on? And I was fortunate enough to have a chef in Philly by the name of Ted Manco. Shout out Ted Manco. He turned to me, he's like, you know nothing. This is going to be a lot of work for me. But and again, it was just something he saw in me, and he wanted to give me a shot. And I wasn't an easy project, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always just work ethic. I think I was very fortunate to start in that barbecue restaurant, Baby Blues. Shout out Baby Blues. But I just worked with a lot of human beings in that restaurant that just had insane work ethic.
Yeah.
They just worked their asses off, and it just showed me that as long as you work your damnedest and your hardest, you can learn from the mistakes and you can get better. So that's my long story on how I got into food.
Awesome. So you come back to Philly.
Yep.
And then from there, I don't know, give me a brief breakdown. So did you end up back in LA?
I did. So went back to Philly, worked in a restaurant called the Oyster House on Sansom Street. Anyone from Philly will know that. It's an institution. And I was there for about a year.
And this is at what age?
This was 23, 24. Sounds about right. And then I actually went on a trip to Uganda, Africa for Habitat for Humanity.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was pivotal for me in that point in my life because, I don't want to say I had the hardest childhood, but, it wasn't an easy childhood. Yeah. But I tended to have the, poor me, my life's so rough type mentality. And then you go somewhere where
just
people are super impoverished and they don't have the necessities of, life that we do.
Yeah.
But the nicest, happiest people, you can never tell. And so being around people that were just appreciative of just life really changed, my outlook on life. But I also went with some family members that I have that live in Denver, and they kept telling me to come out to Denver. So I moved out to Denver, worked in a small little restaurant called Charcoal. It's no longer there, but worked there for a little bit. I was still getting by on just work ethic and just pushing and, all that kind of stuff. So, one of the better cooks in the kitchen. And then I was going to LA again. I went to Coachella. My uncle was like, hey, let's go have a dinner somewhere. Where do you want to go? And that was right when Brian and Michael Voltagio put out their cookbook, Volt Inc.
Okay.
It's right after Top Chef when they were both on it, and Michael had won. And I mean, to this day, it's the most successful. It was the only season they won an Emmy, but objectively, it was just some of the best cooking.
Yeah.
And so I got their cookbook, and I turned to my uncle, and we got to go to Inc. I want to check this. He just opened it up. I want to check this restaurant out. And we went in and like, oh, can we get a table? I'm like, no, like busy, like get out of here. But you can sit at the bar. Like we got a bar. Sat down and had a meal, and it was the first time that I had eaten food that I was like, this is amazing, but I also like, I have no idea how he did this. Like no idea.
Was this very fine dining?
It's not that it was very fine dining. Don't get me wrong, Michael, like, you know, he ran a Michelin-starred kitchen in California. Yeah. Like he knows fine dining. Inc. was just very much a like cool, hip, casual place. Like there was hip hop playing real loud. There was no like white tablecloths on the, you know, tables. It was a very like casual setting, but the food was just, how did you do this? Like very fine dining technique.
What cuisine?
I mean,
it's kind of a mix.
Yeah, Michael cooks kind of. I mean, how you see a lot of chefs cook. I definitely fall under this category. It's the new American where you just kind of blend everything. You just kind of blend techniques and cultures in a very respectful way. Of course, I think it's very easy to say like, oh, you're appropriating culture. But I think it's fine if you're still paying homage and being respectful of the culture. Just very blended. Definitely I will say definitely a strong background in like French. It's kind of how I cook as well, where it's like, you can tell I cook with a lot of French technique, but then just blend flavors. But, you know, I mean, one dish I remember he did egg yolk gnocchis, where it's just like these little egg yolk dumplings. And I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? So I finally was like, I have to learn how to do this. So, you know, went to Coachella, had fun, blah, blah, blah. Went back to Denver, and I started sending my resume to the CDC there every single day until he responded to me. Every day. Finally did, went out and I staged, and it was like eye-opening. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is cool. And he's like, cool, you got a job. When can you get out here? I was like, 2 weeks. So went back to Denver, put my notice in, and packed up not even a suitcase, like a duffel bag. And at that point in my life, I was living out of like a single bag and moved back out to LA. And again, my Uncle Danny, I was like, hey, come back to your couch. And, you know, I didn't stay on it full time. I mean, him and his business partner lived together, and he got to a point where he's like, dude, your nephew cannot constantly stay with us. But then I just, you know, went to my buddies who were out there, slept on their couch and their floor until I could get something. I mean, that was just like the lifestyle. That was, you know, a lot. My story is not different than anyone else's. I know so many people that are my peers that did the same thing. Just slept on couches.
Around what year? What years were this?
2012?
Okay.
I want to say maybe 2010, 2012. So long ago. But once I got to Inc., it was crazy. I quickly realized that I was in way over my head. I did not know what the hell I was doing. I was making way more mistakes than I've ever made before. And it was like going from like, anyone who plays sports, it's like, I didn't play collegiate sports, but like going from like high school to college is like a big jump. But for me, it was like going from like college sports to like the pros. And you're like, oh, this is like a wake up, like welcome to the league moment. You know, every day I was like, I'm going to get fired for something. I suck. I'm terrible. And it was a rough kitchen. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, but they demanded the best out of you every single day. It was not the type of kitchen where, you know, I've worked in a lot of kitchens where the chefs are like, I don't want people running around. I don't want people screaming. We're going to be relaxed. We're going to be calm.
Where did you start in the kitchen?
I started on Garmager, cold station for anyone who doesn't know. And, you know, I was doing okay there. You know, it's definitely like overwhelmed, but like I was figuring it out. And then someone left on the roast station, the meat station, and they moved me over there, and it was entremet, which, you know, handles all the veg work and the side work so one guy can handle all the proteins, or gal. And that's when I quickly was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the type of kitchen. It's like figure it out or get out. They were not like shy about it. And, you know, it was the type of kitchen, there was a lot of turnover. But if you made it through, like you came out the other side a badass, like a true badass.
Oh, yeah. And then where from there did you?
From there, I was there for a year, and then I had to get out. It was just a lot. I would go home with like anxiety and panic attacks, and like it was wearing on me. And then I went to work for a chef by the name of Ludo Lefebvre at Trois Mec. And then I was there for about 9 months. I didn't finish a year there. I was kind of over LA. I wanted to get out, and there was a restaurant opening back home in Philly. A chef named Justin Bogle was opening that. And his pedigree is amazing. I'm not sure if it's changed, but at the time he was the youngest chef to ever run a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant in New York. So he was coming back home, opening a restaurant in a space that was the old Lefebvre, which, if anyone knows restaurants, George Perrier in Philadelphia is a legend. Like the guy had, I think it might have been like the best restaurant in the country at like some point in the 70s or something like that, but like institution. Yeah. So he was opening up a restaurant in that space, and it was great. We were cooking amazing food. It was just tough. It was something the city of Philadelphia wasn't ready for, didn't want. So I wasn't there long because unfortunately it did close. And then from there, I went to work for a chef by the name of Kevin Sprague. He went on a run of like working for Top Chef people because Ludo was on Top Chef Masters. Yeah. And then Kevin won, I think, the season after Michael, season 7. Okay. And Sprague was, fine dining restaurant where it was like a pre-fee kind of thing. And I started there as a sous chef. Several months in, the CDC left. And Kevin started interviewing and doing tastings with people to fill that position. And if anyone's ever worked with me, they've probably known that I'm not the easiest to work with, where I don't know, for me to like respect someone, like they had to be like a badass. And I finally turned to Kevin and I was like, I'm just letting you know right now, like any of these people you hire, I'm probably not going to super respect. And why don't you just give me the job? And I'm like, and it's like, who the fuck are you to say that? Like, but like, I was just, I don't know. I was cocky and a little arrogant for sure. Especially
also being relentless. And like in that you said you wrote an email to the CDC back in LA when you were in Denver like 30 times?
Yeah.
That's how you can't get anywhere in life.
No, yeah, exactly. So finally he was like, okay, like put your money where your mouth is. Like I'll give you the position on like a trial basis type thing. Yeah. And so, I was put in the position and I just kind of ran with it. I definitely, had some growing pains where, at that point I'm 25, 26. So again, like I'm still a kid. Yeah. And it's the first time running a kitchen. So, I'm starting to run it the way that chefs ran their kitchens that I worked for. Lots of screaming, lots of yelling. Yeah. I had the director of operations of the group kind of sit me down one time. He's like, hey, like dial it in a little bit. Yeah. But it was fun. I got to start creating food, and I was cooking good food, but at the same time, like I'm still learning a lot. Like I still don't know everything. And then at that point, I took a job in upstate New York at a restaurant called the Krebs. It's been there since like the 1800s. But the owner reached out, and I mean, just being honest, he offered a salary that I was like, as a 26-year-old kid, I was like, whoa, like, okay, let's go do this. Yeah. And it's in a small town in upstate New York called Skinny Atlas. Okay. It's like a population of like 1,000 people. Okay. But beautiful. The lake, Lake Skinny Atlas that it's on is Finger Lakes. It's like one of the cleanest lakes in the country. So it's like I was living in an apartment right on the lake, and it was cool. I mean, I was only there again for like 9 months. Just wasn't a good fit for me. It was hard trying to get talent to a small little town in upstate New York was like pulling teeth, and I just wasn't happy. So I was leaving, didn't have anything planned. I was just chatting with friends, kind of seeing what's out there. Okay. I reached out to some of my friends that were still working for Michael in Los Angeles. And the next thing you know, like Michael's calling me one night, and I hadn't talked to him probably since I had left Inc. And he's like, hey, like, I want to go work for my brother Brian. And I had met Brian maybe once or twice. He came out to Inc. to like cook dinners, but like didn't really super know him. He's like, yeah, my brother's looking for chefs down in Maryland. So I was like, all right, cool. Back this time I had probably 2 duffel bags.
Okay. Working
my way up. Probably had 2 duffel bags this time. And then hopped on a Greyhound bus, which is the worst, and went down to Frederick, Maryland.
From upstate New York?
I went to Philly first.
You went to Philly first.
Yeah, just to kind of see some friends and family. And then, hopped on a bus, went down to Frederick. I literally just told this story the other day that I didn't have an apartment yet. And I was staying in a motel for like 2 weeks. Okay. And Brian found out and turned to me and, why didn't you tell me? You could have stayed at my house. But I didn't feel super comfortable yet. I like had just met him. I didn't want to be like, hey, like, put me up at your house.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like sleeping in a motel. Again, like I just had that mentality of like, I mean, it was a bed. Like I've been sleeping on like mattresses on the floor, like in Los Angeles. So it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But I was working at his restaurant, Volt. He was actually looking for chefs to run some restaurants that he had like in DC and like farther out. But at the time I didn't have a car. I was like, oh, I don't have a car. And so it kind of put a wrench in his plan. And he was like, okay, I guess just stay at Volt.
Yep. And
then just working there. He started me off as a sous chef. He was just like, he's like, obviously, Michael vouches for you, but, I'm just going to start you as a sous chef. We'll work from there. Slowly worked my way up to chef de cuisine.
Okay.
And I was there between Volt and then helping him and Michael open up a restaurant in DC. I worked for Brian for about 5 years. Okay. I actually met my wife at Volt. She was a captain, kind of a classic how you meet your partner in a restaurant type thing. But yeah, we started dating in 2017. And then, like I said, I was working at Volt, and Brian and Michael were opening up a project in DC in a Conrad Hilton. So I helped open that. I was at that project for about a year. And then I was pivoting back to Volt. It was a lot. It was a big restaurant project. We were doing IRD and the lounge and the dining room all in, out of one kitchen. So, what we thought we were going to be doing, turned into all of a sudden between all the outlets, you're doing 400 covers a night. And it was just very overwhelming. So pivoted back to Volt, but I pivoted back right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm back at Volt for probably 2 weeks, and I was laid off like most of the country.
Yep.
And unemployed for 7 months. So that was a lot of time where I wasn't cooking. It was just sitting at home, got super into fitness and just doing what I could to stay busy, but also did a lot of thinking, because up until that point, I was definitely still the screaming and yelling chef and just not treating people great.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of thinking of just, who I am as a person, who I am as a chef. And after 7 months, Brian reopened the restaurant, but reopened it under a new name. And I'm sure anyone who was cooking in kitchens will tell you during COVID, wearing masks in a kitchen, super not fun.
Yeah.
So it was, just a lot of anxiety getting back into it. I mean, being away from it for 7 months and, also doing it while there's a pandemic still going on was
not easy.
Not easy. But it also just got to a point where I kind of realized like my time with Brian was kind of coming to an end, because I had a restaurant group in Washington, D.C. reach out to me, the Roses restaurant group. So I pivoted to that. I started working in a restaurant called Little Pearl, which has a Michelin star, working under one of my very, very close friends, Tyler Eves, super talented chef. It was good because you can use this knife too.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's just good for peeling.
Yeah.
So I took a step back, took a sous chef position, which was good for me. I just needed to kind of find my passion again. And he was the perfect person to work under. He's just an ultra talented person and super passionate about cooking. So I was there for several months, and then I moved to their catering and events outlet, which at the time was called Roses at Home. And that was cool because we did dinner parties in guests' homes. We also had a part of the operation that was at home, like deliveries, where basically, we changed the menu up monthly, and then people would order food that you got instructions and you like cooked it and at your house and you had dinner for your family.
Yeah.
But then we also did catering. So the dinner parties was a lot of fun, and I spearheaded that because, cooking. The Roses Restaurant Group has 3 restaurants with a Michelin star. So we were able to cook like all this cool Michelin food. And then like the catering part came into it where we had a gala for 400 people.
Okay.
In the National Cathedral. And I mean, the chef owner, Aaron Silverman, was very adamant. He's like, we're cooking all this food a la minute. Like, we're not going to be like pre-plating and hotboxing, which, catering usually is.
Yeah.
So it was organizing and planning a gala for 400 people that you're going to plate in the moment, cook and plate in the moment, and get it out as fast as can. So that was, took several months to plan it, but then executing it went really, really well. And that was pretty awesome. But that was probably the moment I realized I'm like, oh, catering's not for me.
Yeah.
So, I was with that operation for a bit. I just started getting to a point where my wife and I just needed a change of scenery. So I had a job lined up in Dallas. Long story short, that fell through. So just started looking in Dallas still, but then I have a sister-in-law who lives in Austin. She turned to my wife, was like, why don't you just move to Austin? So found a job here in Austin. I was with a hotel called Arrive for a year. And then I had a recruiter reach out to me.
Austin here?
Yeah. I had a recruiter reach out to me about Pasta Bar and did an interview, tasting, stage, went out to LA to their LA location and got the job. Been here almost 2 years since.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
That is my long story.
Love it.
My long origin story.
Really neat, very neat story. So tell me, what's the perfect meal for you? Is that could be this, but also surrounding food, ambiance, people there. What are you drinking? What's the setting?
I think I probably have 2 different answers for that. So if it's like the perfect meal, like what do you just want to eat, which I was fortunate enough to have recently, is probably just a cheesesteak.
Okay.
And like some pickled chilies, pickled peppers on the side, and like a Dr. Pepper. But that's just like my death row meal. Yeah. But no, I mean, an ideal meal for me, honestly, guests come in all the time and ask, oh, you must cook this.
As well?
We'll leave that. Don't want too much garlic. I'm probably not even going to need all this fennel. Guests will ask, oh, you must cook this food all the time, etc. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I cook it all the time. Doesn't, it's like a funny like video that I've seen like chefs do where it's like no other profession you ask like a mechanic, like, oh, what's your favorite like car part to change at home and stuff like that. So it's just funny to me. But I appreciate fine dining. But no, like a perfect ideal meal for me is, I want to go into a setting where it's not stuffy and you feel like, oh, I need to dress a certain way or act a certain way. I want to feel comfortable. And then the food, I just want it to be tasty food that's well thought out. Sometimes it's food that you're like, wow, how did you conceptualize this? But sometimes it's just very classic, honest food. But the biggest thing for me is, everyone thinks I critique food to the nth degree. To an extent, if I'm at a restaurant where you know, they have Michelin stars or they're trying to be super creative, I'll start critiquing it a little bit more. But I just want food that's cooked well, seasoned well, that has a purpose behind it. I've ate at plenty of restaurants that have Michelin stars, and you can sit there and be like, the food was cooked perfectly. They've sourced the best ingredients in the world, but there's no, the why behind it is missing. Like, what's your why? And where's the passion? Where's the story behind it? Sometimes people are just like, I'm just doing this because I want all the accolades and awards, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. But the best food is always the food that has like a story behind it, a meaning behind it, passion behind it, a purpose behind it. So for me, it's just going into a space where you just feel comfortable, you feel welcomed, you feel the warmth, and the food is just true to the chef and what they're trying to do there.
So when you go into a restaurant, you want the staff there to be happy to see you. You want them like the hospitality versus service piece. That was a big part of unreasonable hospitality. What the difference was. How do you guys go about it? I mean, this is a very small, intimate restaurant. There's 10 seats. And they're all sitting there in the open kitchen with you guys. How do you guys build that energy in such a small room?
So building that energy, it starts from the second you walk in the door. And it has to shift as well, because when we come in, the kitchen team is very focused, and, you know, we're dialed in on the food and making sure the mise en place is good, and, you know, we're set up in time.
How many of you are back here on a given night?
So during the day, while we're prepping, there's one person making pasta that comes in the mornings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us prepping in the back of the house. And then the pasta person leaves right before service. So it'll be like 5. And then some nights we have our pastry cook come over and work. So it'll be like 5 to 6 back of house. And then we'll have a dishwasher and 3 front of house. So very tiny space, good amount of people in it. So it's navigating. And I think the general manager put it perfectly to one of his new hires recently, where he turned to her and said, if you feel like you're in the way, you are. And he's like, it's just unavoidable. He's like, it's nothing personal. It's just like, it's too small of a space. You're always going to be in someone's way. So it's just navigating the space. But like I said, when we first come in, it's like very intense focus. And then the corporate chef put it a perfect way. He's just like, all right, then you get closer to service. Then you want to start like having like a little bit of banter, a little bit of just like joking around and having fun, and having conversations, because the chefs here, we spiel all the food to the guests. So we are interacting with the guests. And I mean, speaking as a chef of 20 years, that is very introverted and awkward. If you're like just focused and like cooking all day, and then you have to talk to someone out of nowhere, there's going to be times where you're just fumbling over your word. I still do it, but more often than not, you're just like, I don't know what to say and I feel weird. So he's like, just start having like the fun banter and talk to each other. So that way, when the guests do come in, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm talking to you. But also like, you know, we don't want to talk to the guests like it's just like we're hanging out with some buddies at like the bar or something like that. But still talking to them like they're
there's a line.
Exactly. We don't want to fall into the narrative that fine dining is like super proper and super stiff. And, you know, there's a time and place for restaurants like that, where there's like the captains are wearing like suits and you have white tablecloths. But we don't want that. We want it to be fun. So, and then we have pre-shift every day. So we talk about the guests that are coming in, anything else we need to address. How are we feeling today? Pretty good. 7 for tonight. No 9:30s. So starting at 5 o'clock is a 3 top. Brian, Adrian, and Chris. Brian's their friend visiting from out of town. So Adrian is no raw tomato, no beets, no squid ink, no raw meat or fish, no caviar. She's pretty picky, but she digs what we do. Just check with her when she comes in. If just let her know about the crudo dish. It has dehydrated tomatoes on it. but we can completely omit it if she's just like no tomatoes at all. It's fine. She's fine with like cooked and sauces and stuff like that. It's just no like physical. I'm gonna lean towards she's probably not gonna want them but just ask her. I'm sure she'll appreciate it. And I don't even think I'm gonna offer him caviar. If she's no caviar, I don't think they're gonna want it. Yeah, so I'm not even gonna offer. So we'll just go right into their meal.
She's the boss.
Yeah, exactly. She's usually the boss when they come in. So, but yeah, last time they were in was April. Besides Adrian, no other restrictions. And then 7:15, starting with a two-top. Actually, we got only two deuces. First one is Tom and Angela celebrating an anniversary. No restrictions for these two. And then finishing up the night is Lottie and Logan. Lottie is our surprise no shellfish allergy. I'll go run and grab some salmon right after this. No celebrations for these two. Any questions about guests? So tonight we're doing pears on the duck rather than the peaches. Peaches are bye-byes. Pears are coming into season. We're doing the same way, just marinated and grilled for now. Start working on a new set. Thank you for everyone taking time out to help move stuff and all that. And I know that was not on the docket today, but got it done, you know? Yeah. Hopefully it's the only day that happens. But, yeah, other than that, if we have time, I mean, which we will, there's a little bit more space where like the grill goes. There's a metro shelf there, but there's like just a lot of ash we'll need to sweep up, just tidy up. It's slightly more organized back there, but
There's a building guy back there poking around. I don't know what
he can fuck off. Actually, he's a building guy. It's technically part of the building, so. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Mark, you got anything?
Yeah, we got a fantastic review Yelp.
A Yelper.
Jackson did a lot of Yelp. So last Yelp was August 9th.
So people still use that.
Anyway, Jackson says, this review is actually from my visit back in March, but I have been constantly thinking about the visit since then. I was taken here for my birthday and had no idea what I was walking into. My sister just said she made dinner reservations for my birthday. I think it's very rare to find a place that gives the experience that this restaurant offers. The food, the staff, the design of the space. It's all perfect. 5 stars. Thank you, Jackson.
Oh yeah. Big ups, Jackson. That's all. Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns, grievances, death threats? It is 3:36. That is plenty of time to go back in there, get set up, and let's get after it. Nice.
Once a month. Once a month.
Once a month? It's like 3 times a week.
That's not good.
But we'll just talk about it, you know. A big thing is just smile. It's something I have to remind myself. People have always looked at me when I'm cooking and why are you so angry? I'm like, I'm good. And they're like, no, you look so angry. And I'm like, I get super focused and like I just have like this blank expression on my face and like I'm not smiling, so I look angry.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's sometimes I am angry. I can be a mean person.
Yeah. As can everyone know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I always say it to people, I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean. There's times where it's like we still have a job to do, and it's very, you know, crucial that we're giving our all every single day. You know, I don't like when people are like, give me 115% every day, because we're human beings. Like, people have bad days. And so I always tell someone, if you only got 60% from me today, give me all of that. Give me all your 60%. Like, but I can't sit here and be like, you need to give me 115 every day.
Yeah.
But going back to my resting mean face, it's just realizing sometimes that like I'm very intense and I can be like scanning the dining room sometimes and just being like this. And I'm like, shit, smile. So that people don't think you're angry. And it's just a simple smile.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, we're on stage and sometimes you have to fake it. Like, sometimes I've had plenty of bad days, like
Yeah.
plenty of bad days where I'm just like really like sad or I'm anxious or just like, just not my day. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be interacting with people and I don't want to be doing this. But it's like they don't care. And it's not like if they like knew, they would be like, who cares? But it's just like they're here to have a good time and they're spending a lot of money. So sometimes you just gotta fake it and you gotta put that smile on and just make them happy. And in the long run, it'll make you happy because there's days where I've been like really sad or really upset and I've turned to guests and they've said, this is the best meal I've ever had or the best experience I've ever had. And I'll always remember this. And they just brighten your day up.
That's gotta, in some ways pull you out of that.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, is there times where you get guests that are just like not nice and they're here because they can write it off on their, you know, company card?
Yeah.
Sure. And they don't care what you're doing. But for every one of those, you get people that are genuinely so happy and so appreciative of what you do. And you just never know. So it's just really leaning into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pasta Bar feels hidden, like almost secretive. You walk by, you would never know it's here. I have family that lives right next door, and I've been around on this street many times, and I've always known that it's around here, but I've never, until the other week when I like intently came looking, I never knew it was here. How do you guys go about creating that out of this mystique or intimacy in here in such like feels almost like a hidden, secretive location?
Very much so. I mean, it's pretty intentional. It leans into the speakeasy vibe where it's like secretive and exclusive. Again, we don't want to make it like, oh, this is super exclusive. I mean, sure, the price point does have a factor in that. But no, it's definitely like that vibe. And we get guests all the time that say it. They walk in and sure, the name's Pasta Bar, so it's like, oh, I'm getting pasta.
Yeah.
And then guests will walk in and they'll sit in our front room, and we've got like tiny little tables out there, and sometimes people don't know what they're getting into, and they get confused. Am I eating dinner out here? No. So we start them with some canapes, some small bites, and for people that didn't know what they were getting into, I think it confuses them even more after that. But in a good way. It's confuses them in a way that they're just like, oh wow, like we want to hit them with some bites that are just like really awesome and really delicious. So then they realize like, oh, okay, I'm in for a ride. And then you come back to the dining room, which is, you know, even farther back. We get the lights very dimly lit. We play really fun music. And then just like keep the experience going from there. And again, just interacting with everyone in a fun way, in a way where it's just like, I always say it to the guests and to the team, it's built this way like you're in someone's house.
Yeah.
So it's like, act like your friends are just coming over and you're cooking dinner for them and they're sitting at the counter while you're like cooking. And then from here, they go into our parlor for a third room experience. So it's just constantly like, you're moving around, you're going to these different rooms, you're experiencing different things and different bites and different senses. So it's just like really keeping the guest on their toes in a way, but like not in a way where you're confusing the shit out of them.
What would you say about, I don't know, kind of the law of diminishing returns, especially at least within fine dining? Like when you're giving someone a course, giving them enough that they can, I don't know, enjoy a couple bites, but not too much, where it starts to, the flavor gets old and then dies off.
So my thought process on that is, I mean, it's something I've had to learn a
little bit that they come back wanting more, but not too much. Where they,
exactly. No, I mean, a perfect example is our rigatoni dish with mushrooms is kind of the sauce I'm making right now. It's one of those dishes where it started a certain way as like this dish that was like really beautiful and perfectly plated. And then it got to a point where, you know, the corporate chef was talking, he's like, just make a really delicious pasta dish. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, not everything needs to be like this beautiful composed thing.
Yeah.
So it's turned into this beautiful, like, mushroom ragu, if you will. And it's a very small portion of it. It's like 2-3 bites.
Yeah.
And it's one of those dishes at the very end of the meal. People are always like, oh, this is my favorite dish. And I could have eaten a giant bowl of it. But like, that's the thing, is to like give them just enough for like, I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
But then if you had like a big bowl of that, you'd be like, I feel, because it's rich. So it's like, I feel sick. I got tired of the flavors.
Yeah.
So it's having just enough bites in there that it's like, oh, I want more. But then also my mentality on food is jumping around flavors, cuisines, and, you know, different like flavor profiles or textures. It tends to keep people guessing and not knowing what's going to happen next, which is fun to me. And it always, I don't want the guests to be like thinking in a sense where it's like, I mean, guests will ask every now and then, oh, how do I eat this? And my answer is always the same. I never want to be the chef that's like, you need to do this and then this. I never want to tell people like instructions on how to eat food. It's food, eat it. But I want people to think on like, how do you think of this? Where'd you come up with this? And so I think that helps, where if you're jumping from different flavor profiles or textures from course to course, it doesn't get monotonous, and it's not like I feel like I've had this dish already 2 courses ago. So it's just a progression, really.
I heard this famous actor say once what the difference is between Rao's in New York versus any other restaurant. He said, when you leave any other restaurant, you leave full. But when you leave Rao's, you leave fulfilled. What do you want your guests to take away, and how do you want them to feel after they come here?
I think fulfilled is a good word. Obviously, you don't want guests to, you know, as a chef, it's like you don't want them to leave hungry.
Yeah.
You don't want them leaving like the value wasn't there. As a young chef, you're thinking everyone's coming in, they're paying for the food, and, you know, that's the experience they want. But then the older you get, it's the whole experience. And it's always great at the end of the meal when guests are like, this whole experience was great. The service, the food, the wine, the hospitality, all of that. So we definitely want guests to feel the same way, that, you know, it's a one-of-one experience where the food's delicious, the beverages, whether it's the wine pairing or the cocktails, but most importantly, the hospitality, how you feel, how the space feels to you, how the team feels interacting with you, just creating a memorable experience.
Amazing. And how are you changing and evolving and innovating? At least since your early days, how do you think you've changed as a chef and as a person? And
for sure. So changing as a chef, I've definitely, as far as, you know, because a chef is, you know, it's the whole shebang. There's a difference between, you know, I know a lot of people that are great cooks and they're not good chefs, because a chef's a leader. Granted, you know, I turn to everyone and call them chef in the restaurant. Like, I'll turn to front house people and call them chef. For me, it's like a term of endearment, and it's like a sign of respect. But at the end of the day, a chef is a leader, a motivator, a mentor. But, you know, I've known people that are great cooks and not good chefs. I've met people that are great chefs and not good cooks. So, you know, again, going back to what I was saying my mom taught me, is just empathy. Realizing that people are people, and not to talk to them like they're not, you know, and treating them like garbage, for lack of a better word. So realizing that, you know, everyone deserves, you know, respect first and foremost. And just, you know, I think it's knowing when to put the pedal to the metal a little bit, and kind of dig into people, but also when to back off and realize that, you know, maybe a mistake was made and they're trying their best and they want to do good. And so just learning when to back off and talk to people properly. But then as a chef, like as far as my food is concerned, it's so funny. You hear so many chefs say it. When I was younger, it was like, how can I manipulate this? And how many like cool, weird, wild things can I do? Where people are like, how'd you do that? And every chef I've worked for, they're like, the older you get, the simpler your food's gonna get.
What do you think about molecular gastronomy and versus cooking simpler things and simpler flavors?
I think it has a time and a place. I think more a time than anything, because when I was coming up in kitchens, again, Michael, when I worked for him, was super into molecular stuff. We would spherify things, make gels, make, all the things. And then, I mean, even Michael, like I'm still very, very close with him to this day. And his food has gotten very simple. So, I know there's a lot of chefs that are still doing it and do it at a good level. But for me, it feels unnecessary at this point now. When it's just like, you can just cook really good food and just make it really, really delicious. And don't get me wrong, like, I'd be lying if I didn't say our kitchen doesn't have xanthan gum and agar and, stuff like that. But like I said, there's a time and a place for certain things. But, I'm not using that stuff to do like this wild technique of spherifying or foams or anything like that. If I feel like a sauce needs to be a touch thicker or we need to emulsify something properly, I'll add it. But yeah, I think it was more a time when people were like, oh, this is the cool thing. I think El Bulli, when it was open in Spain, was like the big time for everyone to be like, oh, let's try this cool stuff. And I think with a lot of stuff, it was a trend that came and went for people. And now we're at a point where I think people are starting to cook very classic food and very simplistic.
It still amazes me, like, you take Ferran Adrià of El Bulli, how he had reached the peak and then he just like closed it down, right? Because he was like, I did what I set out to do and I'm good.
Yeah, and you see it with a lot of chefs. You see it, multiple times where chefs will, and it's not even necessarily that they were doing what El Bulli was doing, where they were the best restaurant in the world for 6 years. There's sometimes it's 3 Michelin-starred restaurants. Sometimes it's just a local, restaurant that's mom and pop. But I think when people are like, I did what I wanted to do, I don't feel like there's a next evolution of this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, maybe Ferran saw it. Maybe Ferran knew that they needed to evolve, but there wasn't another evolution of it. Maybe, he was just like, like you said, I've done everything I've set out to do. Like, what more is there? And maybe sometimes it's just like, maybe it's outside the kitchen. But yeah, it's a tough career for sure. Especially like saying, like, there's trends and it's hard to stay trendy and relevant and update yourself.
More for the audience. We chopped up garlic, shallots, fennel.
Yes.
We broke down the chicken.
Yes.
Scraps, sauteed those.
Yep.
Took them out, threw in the garlic, fennel, and shallots.
So yeah, the whole process behind this, like I said, it's a dish, obviously loosely inspired by something my mom used to make me. But again, doing my own riffs on things. A big thing for me is trying to utilize everything I can out of a product. Especially at fine dining, there's just so much waste because you're like, I'm trying to make a perfect portion of stuff. So you're like cutting squares or doing circles where all of a sudden you have like all this trim. So just trying to utilize everything as much as you can, but also just trying to impart as much flavor as possible. So, I mean, again, the easiest way is like all the chicken bones, just roasting them very heavily. Then you create that, fond at the bottom. where you're, you know, cooking the vegetables in it and then some tomato paste, caramelize that for a nice rich flavor. And then just some white wine just to make it light, but also, again, to scrape up that fond. And then just taking your time with, like, at the end of the day, like, sometimes great cooking is just patience.
Yeah.
Like, which is something I lack tremendously.
Yeah.
But it's weird, like, when I'm in a kitchen, I get very patient because I know the longer you take on something, the more time you take, the more attention to detail there is, the better outcome. So, but yeah, I mean, going back to the dish. So, I mean, just some more things I've added. I just covered with water.
Okay.
Usually in the restaurant, we would do chicken stock or, you know, something like that. But just for lack of not having chicken stock right now, because we used it all this past weekend. And then a good amount of thyme and bay leaf, fresh bay leaf if you have it. I know it's not the easiest ingredient to get a hold of. I added a little bit of white soy sauce, some kombu seaweed, and dried shiitake mushrooms. So again, like, kind of speaks to my cooking where I'm taking very French ingredients with, you know, shallot and garlic and white wine, the tomato paste and thyme and bay leaf, and then introducing a lot of Western ingredients to Eastern ingredients with the soy sauce and the kombu and the dried shiitakes to bring some umami and salinity, just balancing out different flavor profiles from different parts of the world. For me, it's fun. It's fun to, you know, blend cultures and celebrate really differences of cultures and foods and techniques and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll let this simmer for a bit. Oh, I almost forget another culture I'm bringing into. So saffron. I love the flavor of saffron, and never being shy about the amount you use.
Yeah.
I think people tend to get nervous about using a lot of saffron because it is very expensive. But it needs to be a good amount of it. It's super delicious and it creates a phenomenal flavor for me. So yeah, we'll let this simmer for a bit and then we'll strain it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's so pungent.
Yeah, it's
We got a lot of flavors going
a lot going on in there. But yeah, you instantly get the perfume of the saffron. Yeah, mixed with some of that seaweed and the mushrooms. It's a really nice one.
Oh yeah. So I've heard Ducasse say that about 85% of cooking is the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
The sourcing of ingredients, understanding how to work with them, where they come from, and how to, I guess, bring out the flavors as best you can. How do you approach sourcing?
So, you want to help me clean some mushrooms?
Yes,
it's not that many.
Yep.
So first, I'll just show you how. Have you ever cleaned a chanterelle before?
Not a chanterelle.
So what you're gonna do is cut the bottom off.
Yep.
And then basically what you do from here, so yeah, cut the bottom off, and then you're gonna just take the blade and scrape the stem. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love cleaning chanterelles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you approach your sourcing of ingredients, and how important is that?
So sourcing is very, very important to me. You know, I wish I could sit here and say I'm like Rene Redzepi and I only source things from, you know, Texas.
Yeah.
But one, you know, Texas is a harsh climate and it's hard to get all the things you want sometimes. But then two, I think it's also important when guests are paying a premium to make sure you get the best available product. And sometimes that means outside of the state. But seasonality is like crucial to me. But I do say all that to say, I think it's very important to know local farmers, know local purveyors. It's easier. It makes your job so much easier as a chef if you are cooking seasonal, fresh, local produce. You know, we work with a fishmonger here who, you know, drives down to Houston multiple times a week himself, and picks up all the seafood himself. And he's a former chef, so he's someone I know that he's got my best interest. If he hits me up and he's like, hey, this fish wasn't good, I got you this other fish that looks amazing. And if we need to make a pivot on the menu, we'll make a pivot on the menu. But I'd rather do that than be like, oh, well, we have to serve this fish because this is what the intention or the original idea was. The job of a chef is pivoting a lot sometimes. And I think there's a requirement to pivot if it makes the product on the plate that much better for the guest. And it's something, you always kind of have to constantly remind yourself that, like, well, it wasn't supposed to be this vegetable on the dish and now it's all messed up. But then you remember, like, the guests are coming in for the first time. They didn't know that you originally wanted snapper on the plate, and now you're serving them, halibut. So as long as, you're just sourcing as best you can and staying true to the product. And I think part of that too is not overly manipulating it and turning it into something that it really is a far cry from. Like, if it's beautiful tomato season, why would you take a tomato and puree it and gel it or foam it or anything like that when you can just like concasse a beautiful tomato? Right now we do some concasse tomatoes that we slightly dehydrate, and like that's really it. Sure, we dress them with like gastrique and stuff like that, but when it's like peak tomatoes, like why not just simply treat it so it's super delicious and it highlights its...
Keep it in more of its rawest form.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, this is one of the more satisfying things I've ever done.
I love it.
Oh my God. I could do this for hours.
It's the best.
Oh my God.
I always am weary about using the term rustic.
Okay.
I don't like when restaurants plate something up and they're like, it's rustic, and it's just kind of slop on a plate. To me, that's like, you're just like too lazy to compose a dish. Rustic to me is like, if you're doing something like this and you're like, oh, we're just going to pull the mushrooms apart, but then we're still going to, cook them properly and put them in the sauce nicely, but then still compose them. I think people misuse the word rustic.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of very rustic. How we're just kind of pulling the mushrooms apart rather than like, I want a perfect dice of it.
Got it.
So yeah, from this point, we'll roast them in some brown butter.
Oh yeah.
I'll get another induction for that.
What are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of? That's a good one. That probably is something that doesn't include food. I think what I'm most proud of is just being a good mentor, being someone that people reach out and they want to learn from me. It's humbling. It's humbling to be at a point where, you have people reaching out on, Instagram or through email, and just telling you like, I really want to learn from you. You inspire me and like all that kind of stuff. I think I'm most proud of that. I think I'm most proud when people have worked underneath me, or worked with me, that, they leave. When they do leave, they, feel like they've learned a lot and they feel like they've grown. So being like a mentor is probably something I'm most proud of.
Pounding out some chicken.
So yeah, at this point, we have the half chicken deboned. We're going to keep it intact together, but I'm going to just slightly flatten out the breast so that it's about the same thickness as the thigh.
Yeah.
We just kind of want it to cook at the same rate. So yeah, just give it a little bit of a beating.
I'm curious. What do you cook for yourself at home? I'm sure it changes, but on like a typical basis.
Honestly, a lot of times it's chicken. It's mostly chicken and broccoli. I mean, we talked about it once. I've said broccoli is my favorite ingredient, vegetable at least to cook with. I just find it, one, super delicious. It's definitely one of those vegetables when you're a kid, it's like, can't have your dessert till you eat your broccoli or your Brussels sprouts or like all the brassicas family, the cabbages and the cauliflowers. Again, going back to, I think people just growing up had like overcooked mushy broccoli, or it's like overcooked and it smells like farts, and like, which a lot of those like mustards and like all that tend to do when you like cook it to absolute oblivion.
Yeah.
But to me, broccoli is just, it's so versatile. I think the part that people tend to forget about is, you know, you get this huge stalk of broccoli where you have these beautiful crowns and the tops, and then you have this long stem, and everyone's usually like just throwing it away because like on the outside, like the exterior is super fibrous and it's like woody and you don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
But if you just peel that skin away, the stem is beautiful. It's hardy. You can sear it really heavily. But I think the versatility of broccoli is kind of perfect in one of the dishes we do here at the restaurant. So we do a spaghetti course where we make the spaghetti green, not from broccoli, but we make a green spaghetti and then we make the sauce.
From spinach?
Yeah, the spaghetti is made with a spinach powder, which makes it really, really green. But then we make a sauce from the broccoli florets. So we'll saute some ginger, some shallot, some chilies, and then we cook the florets with it, and then we blend it. So we have this like super creamy broccoli sauce, and then toss the pasta in there, and then we take the stem of the broccoli, again, that super hearty, delicious part, and we poach it with some fish sauce, some sesame oil, some ginger, lemongrass, and then we char it really heavily on the grill, get a lot of smoky flavor with it, and then we take more of the tops and we fry them with some onions and chicken skins, so you have this like really beautiful crispy crumble over top, and then yeah, there's other things in the dish, like we have some like beef tendon, and we do some grilled blue Caledonian prawns. But then we finish the dish with a really, really aromatic broth. We always say it's inspired by pho because it's not like a direct pho. Because we take chicken bones and we like roast them really heavily. With traditionally pho, it's like you're just poaching chicken, so it's like a very white and light broth. But we wanted to do very, very roasted flavors, so we roast the chicken bones and we do charred onions and charred ginger and then all the traditional 5 spices, if you will. So it just balances out really beautifully, like the creaminess of the sauce and then some of the bitterness from the fried components and the smokiness from the grilled broccoli stem. So yeah, long story why I like broccoli. But yeah.
No, I'm mesmerized right now. It's a wonderful story.
So yeah, at home it's usually like chicken and broccoli. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely gotten to a point in my life where, again, I'm super passionate about fitness, and you know what correlates with that is eating healthy. So
absolutely,
we definitely try and eat healthy at home. So, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, do you cook like this at home? Like, absolutely not. Like the amount of butter, like, I mean, you saw me roasting those mushrooms in butter, and we're going to finish the sauce with more butter. Like the food we cook here is just very rich and very heavy sometimes. And so it's like, I don't want to eat like that all the time. So, and it's one of those things too, where people are like, oh, healthy food's boring. It's like, no, it's not. You're just not cooking it right. Yeah, you're just not cooking it right. Like you can just take a simple chicken breast and like, if you just season it with salt and you cook it right, you get nice crispy skin. Like it's delicious. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Just how you cook food. It's really all it is.
The other week, I just made rice at home and threw in some cilantro and lime and
call it a day.
My buddy was there and he tasted. He was like, "How the hell did you do that?" Like you can make it enjoyable.
Yeah. At the restaurant every day we do family meal. for anyone who doesn't know, it's just you have a meal. You're working for a long time, so you know you just get a cooked meal once a day. But if anyone's watching this who's worked in the kitchen that I've ran, they know what family meal is every day. It's mostly chicken and rice.
Yep.
One, you just got to be. At the end of the day, you got to be smart. It's a business, and you're not trying to be like, oh, we're having like steaks for family meal. Like, you got to be, financially smart on like, okay, what am I bringing in to feed everyone? And, this is a small team, but sometimes you're cooking for 30 people. And it's like, how can I cook people, a sustainable, you said there, you're like, how can I cook a meal with enough sustenance for 30 people and still not break the bank? So usually it's chicken and rice. But then it's just like, sometimes people come in and they're like, oh, what kind of chicken and rice are we having today? But it's just, how you cook it and, different flavors you can do. And I think, again, chicken's a beautiful canvas because every culture cooks chicken.
Yeah.
Every culture cooks chicken, whether it's, very American where it's fried chicken or barbecued chicken, smoked chicken. But then you go to, Asian cultures where some Southeast Asian cultures there's lots of peanuts and fish sauce, and then you go to French cuisine where it's poaching chicken or cooking chicken in butter, and it's a vehicle for so many types of cooking. It's a really cool piece of protein, really.
Yeah. How self-critical are you? How are you critical?
Oh, I'm
yourself?
my biggest enemy.
Yeah.
I'm very self-deprecating. I am constantly telling myself I'm not good enough. I'm not saying it's healthy or people should be thinking that way. But I'm my biggest critic. I'm starting to get to a point where I'm like, yeah, I get it. But we've weirdly enough, in the last week and a half, we've had a lot of guests come in. They're like, oh, I recently ate at the French Laundry. I was like, is everyone eating at the French Laundry right now? But I've had guests that are like, I went to the French Laundry and the food is better here. I had someone the other night, they're like, this reminded me of Noma. And I was like, all right, pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not Rene Redzepi. But
That's gotta feel good though. It
feels really great. It
Yeah.
feels great. When the guest who said it reminded him of Noma is actually him and his wife, who were regulars when I was at Volt. They live in Maryland and they were out in Texas, and they drove to Austin from Dallas just to eat here, and it was really great to see him. But he said, remind me when I ate at Noma. I was like, all right, calm down, John. But then he was like, what it really reminded me of was the very first month that Brian opened Volt, when he was creating food. And that one meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because Brian's one of my biggest mentors in my career, and he's a very talented chef. And, the food he was cooking when Volt first opened was he was younger than I am at this point in my career, but he was at a point where he's like, I'm pushing every single day and I'm going to cook the best food I can. And, so yeah, like I said, I'm very self-deprecating. I always kind of tell myself not good enough, do better, try harder, do more, which, like I said, it's probably not the healthiest way, but it's helped me in the sense that I've just never rested on my laurels.
Never enough.
But it's really awesome to hear guests come in and say oh, this food is better than a 2 Michelin-starred or 3 Michelin-starred restaurant that I went to recently. So it's a balance. It's definitely a balance you got to have.
So what can you feel comfortable to say you've achieved, and what is the rest of this living dream for you as a chef?
So what I feel comfortable to say I have achieved, man, that's a tough one, because kind of going back to just how I speak to myself and all of that, I think
whether that is position as a chef or what you think you're capable of as
for sure.
Aside position, that.
Because part of the very critical part of me is saying you haven't achieved enough yet. You haven't done anything. But no, I think the part of me that's realistic is I think I've achieved my style and who I am as a chef, whether it's management and running kitchens, but most importantly, my style of food and how I cook and how I plate food, and my level of hospitality. And then the dream for me, I mean, I definitely want my own restaurant.
Yeah.
I think that's a dream of a lot of chefs. I also want to do more than just fine dining. I love fine dining. It's something that pushes me, and I strive for the best every single day. And, it's a conversation I had with someone recently where, they're like, why does fine dining have to be the end all be all critical? This is me at my greatest form. And it doesn't, but for me, like, that's what makes the most sense. But I also want to follow other food passions I have. One of them is sandwiches. Being from Philadelphia, like cheesesteaks and hoagies and all that. So I want to explore food in like all its forms, and like what makes, like I said, my death row meal is a cheesesteak. So
well, then sometime in the near future, I'd love to make a cheesesteak with you.
Hell yeah. We'll definitely have to make that happen. But I think the biggest end all be all goal for me is to do as much as I can with this, be able to cook food that makes me happy, whether it's like sandwiches or something simple and comforting, but also still in the fine dining space, because there's always times where you get burnout. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter the field. Like, I'm sure you felt burnout in your life. Yeah. I know people that work 9 to 5s and they're like, I'm burnout. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. Working in restaurants, that kind of gets fast tracked because, sometimes we're working 12 plus hours. Yeah. Sometimes we're working 6 days a week. You're dealing with high stress environments. And then again, being very self-deprecating and, always trying to push to be this thing that you may never achieve, it burns you out. And so there's definitely times where I'm like, I'm done with fine dining. I don't want to do it. And then it's a conversation I had with someone recently. They said, anytime I've like felt that way, like, sure, like, he's not saying like, take time off and like try and balance, but always go back to the food. Always go back to the food, and like, remember why you started doing it and why you love this so much. Yeah. So fine dining for me is always something I'm going to be like gravitating towards. It's just for me, it's the pinnacle. Doesn't need to be for everyone, but for me, it's the pinnacle. So again, one day I'd love to own my own fine dining restaurant. But yeah, going back to sourcing like quality products. Yeah. It's if you're cooking a tomato in January, like, you're probably not cooking a good tomato. So yeah, we just try and stay as seasonal as possible. And just keep it fresh and keep it fun and updated and, as new as we possibly can be. Innovating
per season, how much time goes into that to get the menu right for the next season? So I take it you're in the fall menu now.
We are slowly transitioning from summer to fall. So we have.
I guess it's still September. It's technically summer.
Yeah, so, and again, I know I keep harping on tomatoes, but I mean, we do have a tomato dish that actually I put on the menu a couple weeks ago, and So you'll interchange. You'll take one out. Yeah, it's not just like a hard switch. Exactly. No, a hard switch of the whole menu is rough. Yeah, it's super not fun. So we try and do it little by little, and I mean, even anyone watching this on the East Coast, like, it's end of September, almost October. So like, you'll still get really good tomatoes on the East Coast for like a little bit longer. My garden's still a little bit. But like here in Texas, like, you'll get tomatoes until like November. Yeah. I mean, like we talked about before, Texas is just like a hot box. So, I mean, like, the seasons of everything is just so different around here. But then again, sometimes, like I said, sourcing stuff from outside the state. So like, these chanterelles that we're getting are from the Pacific Northwest, like, because it's just like perfect for growing like mushrooms up there. So we just stay as true to the season as possible. But then don't rush, like we were saying, like R&Ding, don't rush into a dish. We're doing a new fish course starting tomorrow, where we're using some local field peas and, Chinese long beans that are really nice in season right now. So it's all about just what's in season and trying to plan ahead as best you can, but also being able to pivot. But for me, it's important not to like rush a dish on the menu. So then all of a sudden it's like, it's not that good. But once we do get a dish on the menu, sometimes it's like,
test it, yeah.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's like, it's good, but then you're like constantly tweaking it and refining it. So again, the dish I keep talking about, the rigatoni with the mushrooms, it started off with like clams and crab, and it was like a very bouillabaisse focused sauce. And we were doing a mushroom version for shellfish allergies or vegetarians. And then morels came into season. We were doing morels, and we're like, that vegetarian version is better.
Yeah.
So we turned it into a vegetarian dish, like completely. I mean, we have some like things where we do like Voltagio, which is a cured mullet roe that we grate over top. Like we add some like layers of not vegetarian stuff into it, but like at its heart, it's a vegetarian dish. And sometimes it just like takes different iterations to get to a point where you're like, this is the final version of the dish.
You guys, it's 3 services a night, right?
Yeah, we do 3 turns a night.
3 turns a night.
So our first turn is at 5 o'clock, and then we do a 7:15 seating, and then a 9:30 seating.
Got it. So what does consistency mean to you when you're doing 3 turns a night?
It's everything.
Yeah,
It's
day
everything.
after day, week after week.
It's everything. It's one of those things we try and talk about ad nauseum. Oh, and right now we're just going to emulsify, again, unhealthy amounts of butter into the sauce because mo butter, mo better.
Yep.
But consistency is everything. I would say it's just as important for us to have the same energy we're only open Tuesday through Saturday. So, it's just as important for us to have the same energy at the 5 o'clock seating on Tuesday as it is the 9:30 seating on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done. But, you can go down the whole rabbit hole of, you got to stay consistent because the Michelin guide looks for consistency and, all that. I'm in the realm, like, sure, you get a lot of restaurants that cook for Michelin stars and awards, and I'd be lying if I didn't say like, oh yeah, I didn't want a Michelin star at this restaurant. Like, of course I would. But once you start getting down the rabbit hole of like, we're staying consistent for Michelin, for a guide and an award, like, I think you've kind of lost the point of it all.
Absolutely.
So again, we're staying consistent. We're trying to stay as consistent as possible for the guests and for their experience. Again, they're coming in and they're spending a lot of money, so they deserve to get our best every single time. So it's easier said than done, but consistency is the number one thing for sure.
How important is the way the food is plated on a dish, the visual component, the color, the style, when someone eats your product?
To me, it's very important.
Oh my God, that's so good. So good.
To me, it's very important.
Wow.
But also at the same time, it's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
I'm just the type of chef where I really want to plate beautiful food and make it look visually stunning. But, there's times where a dish doesn't need to be beautiful. It just needs to be delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, all food needs to be delicious in my opinion, but I think there's certain dishes where you can be like, this can be beautifully plated and delicious at the same time. But I don't ever want to get in the realm of, I'm putting this flour on because it looks pretty. Like, I want it to look pretty and like taste like something. There's some edible flours out there that people put on that I'm like, tastes like nothing. Why are we doing that? But color is important. There's sometimes where, especially like during the fall, where like dishes can get very monotonous color scheme wise, where it's like a lot of like beiges and browns and like it's just a lot of like root vegetables and stuff like that. So sometimes you get stuck
All
in
the colors of leaves falling off the tree.
Exactly,
All the-
exactly.
yeah.
So sometimes, it's as simple as anyone who's worked in kitchens that I've run, like I'm very big on herb oils.
Yeah.
But making them like, we make them in a way that like it is like super green. Like when you are finished making the oil in like a deli container, it almost looks like black because it's like so dark green.
Yeah.
But then when you put it on a plate, it's just like this really vibrant bright green. So I think it's important to, obviously make sure it makes sense on the dish, but like do some color pops here and there. So it's not just like this monotonous, like not very interesting color palette. But yeah, I mean, I it's fun for me. It's fun for me to like make something look beautiful. Try not to make it seem too forced and like too forced or too manufactured, where it's like, oh man, like that's ridiculous. Like
Kind of
that doesn't even
stuff you
that
see
doesn't
out of
even
Alinea.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't even
Yeah.
look like food anymore.
Yeah.
Which I say that, but then the amount of times that we put food down in front of guests and they're like, this is so pretty, I don't even eat it.
Yeah.
It's like it's easy for me to say that. And again, it's kind of the mindset where I'm like, oh, I'm cooking simple food, and like people who don't cook professionally are like, how is that simple? So, but yeah, it's a very important thing for me for sure. All right. So, yeah, something my mom definitely didn't do with this preparation was cook it over Binchotan Japanese coals. But
So this is like your manual, you go Josper ovens, right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay. This is way cooler.
Yeah, it's fun. It's these tiny little grills that it's you and heat and flames. So for us, we obviously don't have a lot of space here. We just cook on induction burners, really. But we do have this, tiny grill. So we cook a lot of stuff on this grill. Definitely for lack of cooking space as far as the induction burners. But cooking over fire is my absolute favorite way to cook. It's, like I said, just you and some flames. And
it's a smoker at home.
I don't. I need to get one. But when you think about it, like fire is a living and breathing thing. Like it needs oxygen to live, just like us. And so just managing the fire, and tending to it is something that's very just unique, and very romantic. To me.
Do you go to other restaurants to try food and get inspiration or see how people cook?
I don't get out a lot, so I don't get to many restaurants to get inspired, but I definitely try and do as much research as I can. Whether it's on social media or YouTube or watching documentaries. But yeah, I definitely get inspired by other chefs, other restaurants, how they cook. And I think seeing other cooks or other chefs cook on over live fire, whether it's wood or charcoal, has been a big one that I've taken from. But yeah, I think it's a conversation I was having with someone not too long ago where I always find it weird if there's chefs that are like, oh, this is my secret recipe and I'm not sharing it. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you gatekeeping? Like, this is cooking is supposed to be a learning and teaching thing where, it's like they say, imitation is the is the highest form of flattery. So I think chefs get offended when it's like, oh, why are you doing that thing? That's my thing. But I think a lot of people have gotten to a point now where they realize like, hey man, you're doing what I did. That's pretty cool. There's a chef by the name of Alex Stupak. He was the pastry chef at Alinea for a long time. And he has his own restaurants in New York. Very, very talented. he's doing like series on Instagram where he's like showing people like some of his pastry techniques and stuff that he's done. And one of them he did was it's a pliable chocolate ganache. So you can take like this bar of chocolate and like twist it and turn it however you want.
Okay.
And he even said it. He's like, I think this was the most like imitated or copied like dessert I've ever done. And so, and I think he even said it too, where he's like, I'm kind of flattered by it. And there's so many chefs in the comments section. I was one of them. I was like, oh, I've 100% copied this dessert before.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wasn't at a point where he's just like, oh, how dare you like copy my food? It's, you know, who inspires you, what inspires you. And I think that's what this career and industry is all about, is learning from other people. And that's how you create your style as well. You know, you work for as many chefs as you can that inspire you and do amazing, great things. And you take that all together and you blend them into yourself.
Yeah. What's the most embarrassing moment you've had in the kitchen throughout your lifetime? For example, I don't know, I've heard Gordon Ramsay talk about overcooking ravioli when working for Joel Robuchon, and he got it thrown at him and he was cooking staff meal the next day, or Dan Barber when he went to work at Fernand's Silverton at La Brea Bakery. Like, I think he did it. He baked the bread one day without salt and it crashed and he got fired like instantly. Have you had any like, oh shit? Like moments?
Man, I've had a couple. I've definitely had a couple. I remember one time when I was working for Michael Voltagio at Inc. Man, I was early 20s, 22, 23. I was trying to make family meal for everyone. I wanted to do pulled pork really fast. So I put the pork in a pressure cooker, not enough liquid, just put it on the stove. Eventually started smelling really, really burnt smell. Realized it was a pressure cooker. When I finally opened it, it was like a good 3-4 inches of just burnt pork. This is before service, so I'm trying to scrape it out. Then Michael comes in, and I didn't want him to see it, so I hid the pressure cooker behind a dumpster out back. Waited for Michael to leave, waited for service to be over. And I started scraping it out, and one of the dishwashers, shout out to him, was like, I got it. I didn't want him to do it, but he's like, don't worry, I got you. But yeah, that is a story that very few people know, and Michael probably still doesn't know until he sees this. So, but then I've also I was cleaning the walk-in once, and like a 22 quart of this mushroom sauce was like kind of off the shelf. We just didn't have a lot of space, and I was mopping, and I went, hit it, and 22 quarts of this mushroom sauce that, you know, was not cheap to make, and like we went through a lot of it. It was for the egg yolk gnocchi dish that I was talking about. And I turned to our sous chef. I was like, hey, do you need this for service? And she's like, why? No, you didn't. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she was so mad at me. And the next day I had to like make it from, thank God they didn't need it, but like, just stuff like that where you just like spill stuff and you're like, fuck, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Didn't get fired, thank God.
It's definitely a different smell than you would get cooking over a stove. Is that more a combination of the coals hitting the chicken, or is that?
For sure, it's, you know, it's definitely the like chicken fat hitting the coals and coming up off of that.
That's unbelievable.
No, it's like I said.
Tell me, what is
the fan?
Yeah, what is the fan?
So it's just getting the fire hotter. Again, you know, obviously fire needs oxygen.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, when firefighters are fighting a fire and they like open a door and like all of a sudden fire just fucking explodes out. It's because it hits this huge hit of oxygen.
It's like my big green egg back home. It's how much the vents are open is how hot it is. And it's sometimes freaking hard to get right. Once you get it right and you can get it consistent, that's great. But yeah, the more the hotter it is.
And the more air you're like fanning onto it, the hotter it'll get. So it's just giving it more life, letting it breathe a little bit more. All right, cool. Looks like the chicken is good to go. So we're just gonna broke apart a little bit, but whatever. We're just having fun and cooking good food.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna take this off and let it rest. The biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone who's cooking any protein at home, even burgers, let the meat rest. Let the protein rest. If you were to cut into this right now, everything's just going to spill out.
Juices will explode.
So you just need to let anything rest. Even like I said, even burgers. Like let a burger rest and then bite into it. Everyone wants food like screaming hot. If you're going to eat this while it's screaming hot, you're just going to lose everything.
Yeah.
So give it a minute to rest. A good rule of thumb is like if you cooked it for, I don't know, say 20 minutes, let it rest for about 5. But yeah, while that is resting, we can get everything else set up, ready to go. All right, so at this point, we're going to bring together the mushrooms and the sauce, check for seasoning, all that kind of stuff while the chicken is resting. So it's a good tip too if you're at home cooking dinner party, something like that. It's the same as a restaurant. You prep everything. You want to start with the bigger projects, and then get everything cooked and ready to go. And then so that if you're cooking a steak or chicken or pork or whatever, while it's resting, you get all your sides ready to go or all your sauces or whatever it is you're cooking at home. So yeah, resting gives you that time as well to really just get everything ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
So we got our very flavorful chicken sauce with the aromatics and the mushrooms and the kombu, the saffron, all the butter in the world, and our brown butter roasted mushrooms. We'll let this cook down for a minute.
Yeah.
Check for seasoning, like I said.
Do you have a favorite food movie?
Favorite food movie? That's a good one. Ratatouille is definitely up there for me.
That's mine.
But I think one of my favorites is The 100-Foot Journey. Have you seen that one yet?
I have not seen that. What is
That's a great one. So premise is, I think it's a small town in France. I forget the setting of the movie. I apologize on that. But it's this tiny little road. One side of the street, it's, I believe they're Indian family. It was an Indian restaurant, very traditional, no fuss, no frills. And the other side of the street is a very classic French restaurant, very fine dining and all that. And the son of the Indian family is intrigued by, the French restaurant and that style of cooking. So, he goes over there, learns how to cook. And then he just goes on this cooking journey where he just starts at very humble roots. And then at the end of it, he ends up being the chef of this, very molecular, one of the best restaurants in the world. And then he kind of, again, just gets burnt out and just over it. So he comes back and then he takes over the French restaurant and just comes back to his roots and just wants to cook very simple, elegant food. It's a very passion driven, if you'll enjoy it, because my mom was like, oh, you'll love this movie. And I mean, even if you're not a chef or anything like that, you'll enjoy it because it's just that. But if you're a chef, it's I dig this. It's just, it's all about passion and love, love for the craft.
Staying on this topic, I mean, so Ratatouille is my favorite food movie I've seen. I mean, the scene at the end when Anton Ego takes a bite of it and it sends him back to his childhood. That scene has genuinely brought tears to my eyes before. How, obviously in that scene, you see the power of food, the emotions that it can bring out. How do you believe that food can transfer emotion?
I mean, it's exactly like that scene in the movie. It's wild how food can take you to a time and a place and remind you of childhood or just, I mean, even I've had people that get very emotional because foods like this reminded me of, my grandmother who passed, who cooked like this, or, something that might have been very sad in the moment, but it brought back good memories still because it reminded you of someone you loved or, a time and a place. And that's what's great to me about food and cooking. One of the reasons I love it too is, I mean, it's very, very rare that you're sitting down to eat with someone that you don't like.
Yeah.
So usually when you're eating and enjoying a meal and an experience with someone, it's with people you love and you want to talk to and be around. So no, food's all emotion. Food's all emotion. And it's something that,
I mean, if you were to ask me what, if I could do honestly anything, it's sit down. 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be sit down with a few people I love and are super close with, and just enjoy a really nice meal with them.
yeah, I mean, it's something you joke about a lot where it's just like, oh, what's the recipe for this? And, you might like list off all these ingredients. And I'll usually always say, and it's like, oh, of course, love. But it's so true. Like people might be like, but like, you got to put love in what you do. Like you can I've worked in kitchens where we have cooked out of sheer fear of just like, I got to get this done or else I'm going to get yelled at or like this. I've cooked in kitchens where like we were very, very passionate about what we were doing and we put a lot of love and care and like focus into it, and it translates. You can taste when someone puts a lot of love behind food and a lot of passion behind food, and it's just all very relevant. It's something I joke about too, where when you're making emulsifications like hollandaise and stuff like that, I had a cook that worked with me. We had to make a beurre monté, which is just butter and water emulsified into each other. And every day he would turn to me and be like, "You're not allowed to be around me when I make beurre monté." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I break it every time you're around me." And I was like, "Are you nervous?" But it's like, it's weird. Like, and I've done it too, where it's like I'm trying to make a hollandaise or a beurre monté or a beurre fondue or something like that. And like, if I'm like stressed out, like it'll always break. Like, it's just weird how like emulsifications can like somehow like feel your like just anxiety or like stress. So food and emotion are like one and the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we'll just.
So tell me, what do the hand tats say on the fingers?
So the fingers across the whole, both hands says cocinero.
Okay.
Which means cook or chef in Spanish. It's mostly, it translates into cook. I think for me, I again started in my uncle's barbecue restaurants where I was legitimately the only person that English was my native tongue.
Yeah.
And so I needed to learn it quick. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, you better learn English or I'm not learning Spanish. I always want to learn, as much as I can. So I speak pretty good kitchen Spanish.
Okay.
So for me, I always wanted knuckle tattoos and I knew cocinero was going to line up right. And then plus it coincides with, I have a love for Latin cuisine, Latin peoples. I speak a little Spanish. So it just made sense to get that one. And then what I always like to do with proteins is a little flake salt. It obviously helps like as a finishing salt for seasoning, but if you get a nice one, it brings a little bit of texture too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
More crunch.
And then we'll get this sauce.
Color of that is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a really, really deep color. Have at it. First bite. It's a weird chef thing that I always wait for other people to eat it and give me their input before I have a bite. You took such an elegant bite.
I love it. That's more like it. No, that's unbelievable.
Doesn't suck.
Doesn't suck. Okay. Yeah.
That's usually my watermark. Does it suck? All right.
Love it. I mean, there's a lot going on there, and chicken doesn't have to be boring.
I mean, it's simple. It's, I mean, it's just chicken, a sauce, and mushrooms. You can make it as complicated as you want. You can, all these ingredients. You can, I mean, I don't know if you're getting chanterelles at your local supermarket, but my mom made it with button mushrooms. You can just get any mushroom you can. Go to like an Asian supermarket. I go to H Mart to get different varieties of mushroom. You can get your dried shiitakes and seaweed there if you want to use that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a little bit of patience, a little bit of effort. It goes a long way.
Okay, so if someone came to you, ready to back you up with as much money as needed, giving you every opportunity, location wherever you want, whatever architect you want, this, that, where are you putting a restaurant and what are you doing?
I would probably lean towards Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, I have family there. I live there. It's an amazing city. It's a good food scene. It's just my vibe. Just a very like outdoorsy city. But as far as what I would do without any money constrictions, oh boy, you'd give me a lot of money. No, I would want to create a restaurant that creates a lasting memory. And to me, that is the second you drive on property. I think once you like get on property, it's like I am somewhere else. I've been transported somewhere.
Yeah.
And for me, that also means like a farm or a garden on property, and walking into a space that's very terroir and like of the environment, but a very sensory experience where you're just experiencing different spaces, different flavors, but also, kind of what we're talking about here, where it's fun music, a fun atmosphere, still fine dining, when it comes to the food and the style of service, but still want it to be fun, where people just feel like they can relax and just be themselves. But I want it to be an experience that people will walk away from and say, oh my God, that's some of the best food I've ever had. And it was amazing. And everyone was so nice and so awesome. So nothing too complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, the complicated part comes when it's like, you talk to most chefs and they're like, I want all the nice plates and all the nice stoves and all the nice, all that kind of stuff. But just somewhere where it transports you somewhere else, because I think it's easy to get stuck in the rat race that is life. And, there's a million and one things going on in the world right now that aren't fun. So just creating a space where people can kind of just break away from it for at least a little bit.
Well, can't wait to try one day. Chef Dan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Come check out Chef Dan's wonderful cooking at 1017 East 6th Street at Pasta Bar in Austin, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you.